This past Sunday's anti-war rally in Washington, D.C. was unique in that it called for people of all ideological stripes to participate. That call was met with resistance from many quarters. The event was organized by the leadership of the Libertarian and People's Parties. Today we speak with Angela McArdle, who is the national chair of the Libertarian Party. Well, Angela, first of all, I really appreciate the work that you and Nick put in for this rally this past Sunday. There were a few thousand people there. I had no estimation or expectation that there would be a huge crowd, but rather that this would be the beginning of something. And certainly people there were very enthused, respectful of each of the speakers. There was no fighting. There were no Nazi flags. None of the crazy fear-mongering that went on was evident. What is your assessment of this, since it's partially your brainchild, and what do you think comes next?
Well, I think it was like the beginning to something really beautiful, the reignition of the anti-war movement. And this time, the anti-war movement is being spearheaded by people from all different political backgrounds, which also makes me think that this war and the United States involvement in it is pretty wildly unpopular. If you have that many different kinds of people who are saying, like, enough, we don't want the United States to be involved. For what's coming next, Nick and I have discussed a lot of different actions. We are going to probably be holding another rally in September. We are definitely going to be encouraging people to lobby their Congress people and do a sit-in or a day of lobbying in about 3 or 4 weeks. And that's really exciting. And we're going to continue to foster these relationships and nurture them so that we're all able to work together on additional areas where we find agreement. This has been, so it's like, not only did we have a successful event in DC for our first event, we had 3,000 people there. It was really incredible. Plus, all the people who are kind of wandering around anyway. But we found out that by working together and really having skin in the game together, like we needed this thing to be successful, we were able to get along just fine across ideological lines because we're narrowly focused. We all agreed on the same issue, ending this war, sending a strong message to Washington. So I'm really optimistic for that. By working together on something, especially something as serious as this, we're able to sort of see the humanity in each other and set aside a lot of preconceived notions about one another.
A couple things. Number one, just looking towards September, for example, the Libertarian Party is an electoral party. It has ballot status. I mean, it actually has an architecture grounded in electoral politics, among other things. And this is an off year. It's an odd year, which means it's state elections this year and local elections. Is there some way of tying an anti-war message to the, what they call the silly season, or the, electoral politics, in a way that was done, for example, in 2003 with the Iraq War? I remember people going to municipal, like city council meetings and state legislative meetings and county legislative meetings and trying to get anti-war resolutions out of the local politicians. Is there any way of, I realize it can be a distraction from the raison of the party vis-a-vis the other electoral parties, but is there any thinking along those lines? And the other thing being that, this war itself may be a pretty fast-breaking event. It could go from where we are arguing over Transnistria, for example, today, to a shooting war between NATO and Russia, like, tomorrow afternoon. Is there some thinking about how to deal with that?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we're going to focus on, especially the Libertarian Party, is all of the legislation that's coming up around foreign policy. So Matt Gaetz introduced a war powers resolution to force a House vote on the removal of U.S. armed forces from Syria. That was just yesterday or the day before. So that's something that we're going to be working on. We're going to get people to lobby their congressmen, do visits to the regional offices, that sort of thing. There's a engaging in political activism in an off year, a year when there's not elections, really opens up the opportunity for you to get creative and do all kinds of things. And it's also, from an electoral perspective, a great time to start training people. There are some people at the Schiller Institute, for example, who do a really good job of disrupting town hall meetings and calling out people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So, we're interested in training with them and learning how to do that. That stuff goes viral. It makes a real impact. So there's all kinds of cool stuff that we can do right now.
And then I'm remembering in 2003, the massive anti-war rally that was held in February 15th. Globally, it was the largest anti-war action in the history of the world, to the extent that the press that had ignored it up to the day of the event started referring to it shortly thereafter as the other superpower in the world because so many people were involved. That, however, didn't slow anything down. 33 days later, we had shock and awe. But what distinguishes this from that was that people were treating that war as Bush's war, and it was a partisan issue. And the elite looking at it knew that if they went ahead, their power would not be threatened because there wasn't a broad-based opposition, just a massive slice.
Absolutely. And so that's what we're really focusing on, is building a broad coalition, people from all different political backgrounds. One of the reasons that I'm so excited about this issue coalition is because it's a broad-based coalition. So it's not a team red team versus blue team. We also really spearheaded this with the Libertarian Party, the People's Party, the Green Party, people that are more from like the independent sector to really kind of get away and have a paradigm shift away from the Republican versus Democrat fighting.
In terms of enrollment, by the way, for people that aren't aware, in most of the states, independents or non-party, affiliated voters are the largest block of registered voters.
Absolutely. So we definitely want to be doing outreach to them. I don't want to push Democrats and Republicans out either, but I want it to be a movement that is heartfelt and sincere and doesn't seem like political gamesmanship. Yeah.
Again, in 2003, what happened was we had a broad opposition within that slice and a thick one. And within months, from February to the following April, it transitioned to the point where John Kerry was the Democratic nominee, and he was in favor of continuing the war. He had voted in favor of the war, and when he was asked, would you have changed your vote, said no. And yet, this whole movement, more or less, that had been in the streets in February of 2003 was saying anybody but Bush and voting for Kerry and encouraging, pretty much demanding that everyone else do that too.
Mob mentality just sort of makes you short-sighted. I'm excited that Republicans are introducing legislation to end some of these wars abroad, and I hope that trend continues. But I do see it as gamesmanship, trying to hit back at what is now a democratic war. But as a libertarian and someone who's really strongly in favor of peaceful foreign policy, I'm optimistic that we can make a change.
Angela, thank you very much for your time, and again, to you and Nick for all the work that you guys did.
Thanks for having me.